You are listening to I Am Refocused Radio with your host, Shemaiah Reed. This show is designed to inspire you to live your purpose and regain your focus. And now, here's your host, Shemaiah Reed.
Welcome back to I Am Refocused Radio. Once again, we are here today. We have another show lined up for y'all. We have our special guest, Amy Weber. She is a seasoned sales leader, entrepreneur, and the founder of Vetta Insights. You can go directly to the website. Bookmark it is vettainsights.com. But today, we're going to talk about not just her professional life story, but what her insights are. Because she has led high-performing teams across global tech, healthcare organizations, data-driven assessments to transform not just the company's approach to leadership, but to grow into that top market strategy. So without further ado, I could spend another, I could spend another 40 minutes on the resume, but I just need to get in the show before the buzzer sounds. So Amy, first and foremost, thank you for taking time to talk to us on the show today. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for the invitation, and I look forward to the conversation.
Yes, ma'am. So when it comes to your journey, you have an amazing journey from blue collar beginnings to becoming a global force, working with executives, helping people not just thrive, but to actually grow to that next level. So kind of touch on your early beginnings and how did you get started?
Yeah, it is an interesting story, and I am the youngest of 5 children. My father was a firefighter. He was an immigrant, first generation, born in America, and really grew up in a part of town where both being a woman and being part of that family, your intent was to get married and have children and kind of just stay in that location, become very stagnant. And that just was never my dream. And so I decided at a very young age that I wanted more. And the way in which to do that was going to be really good academically and to get involved in as many things as possible. And so I forced myself from the time that I was an elementary school student to just kind of create a vision and stay focused, which seems crazy to say, but is so true. And I was just very different than a lot of the people around me they wanted to keep their circle small, and I just saw so much more that I wanted to accomplish. So I did that. I got involved in sports and in political pursuits. I was working from a very young age, but academically I was very strong. That got me an opportunity to go to school, go to Butler University on scholarship. And I took that opportunity to just expand myself, even though it was still close to where I grew up. It was such a fantastic school, and it was not a school filled with people. I knew no one when I went to university. Literally didn't go to school with anyone else I knew. I started out as an English major. That was what my scholarship was in. And I quickly realized that there weren't enough classes for me to focus in that area. And so I went to the business school thinking that I would get a marketing degree or something to that extent because I wanted that additional background. The advisor at the time, who was a mentor of mine until his untimely passing recently, did not allow me to do that. He forced me into an accounting degree. By the way, I would make the world's worst accountant, but it was a fantastic way to challenge me both mentally and academically. And I was able to graduate in 4 years with 2 degrees. My intent was to go to law school, but I got into a horrific car accident my senior year in college, and I didn't want to start law school injured, so I deferred that acceptance. And then really that's when my career took off, because during that next year working for those attorneys, I got some of the best guidance of my life from mentors. And I think mentors are the reason that you succeed or fail. And this gentleman said to me that being a lawyer and being in sales are the exact same thing. You're either selling a product or you're selling a story. He said, my problem was that in the world of law, I didn't believe in the story I was selling for these attorneys, but that if I could find something I could believe in and be passionate about, and that I felt was aligned with my values, that I would be unstoppable. And I thank him to this day for that guidance. I went into tech in 96 when women were on either side of the table, and a lot of people didn't even understand what technology was, and I built a fabulous career around it.
Tell us earlier on your upbringing. how did being exposed to leadership, work ethic at such a young age in academics help shape the path and your confidence in being able to rise to those opportunities?
Yeah, my dad is not an academic, but he was a leader on the fire department, and he built himself from, he was one of the chiefs of the fire department. He was a fireman for 49 years. And so I saw through him what it took to excel. And it took hard work, and it took dedication and focus. And so from that perspective, he's always been a hero in that regard. He couldn't direct me academically, but he could direct me in that regard. So that was number one. Number two, I had teachers that saw something in me that at that time I probably didn't even see in myself. And they understood and challenged me appropriately. Because we had so many kids in such a short period of time, I learned along with my elder siblings. And so when I started school at 5 years old, I already knew how to read and write and do math and do all of those things. So I needed more challenge. And the teachers that didn't challenge me thought I was a problem. They saw me as a disruption in their class, and really all they needed to do were give me additional tasks, and I would take on those opportunities and really overachieve. I like to joke that my second grade teacher was the reason I didn't become a juvenile delinquent. He stacked up books next to my desk, and he told me when I finished my assignments to just read. I read 400 books as a second grader. By the time I grade, they had to go to other schools to get books for me because I had read pretty much everything of interest at that point. And I did that throughout my life. I just consumed information in a way, knowing that I was a lifelong learner and that was going to be what was going to take me to the next step and to the next step. My fifth grade teacher, who was probably my favorite teacher ever in my life, saw that same pattern, and then she would give me challenges. So my curriculum was different than anyone else's. She had me study etymology, and she had me study advanced math, and she had me reading books that were high school and college level at that age because she wanted to, again, give me those challenges. And it just changed the trajectory of my life because there were people who cared enough to see that I needed more than the classroom of 30 or 40 kids could present to me.
Once again, this is I Am Refocused Radio. I'm watching us online, talking to our guest today, Amy Weber. Go to her website. It's VettaInsights.com. Again, that's VettaInsights.com. I want to touch on the point that our choices that we make in life, they're building blocks for the rest of our life. So when you understand the impact that you were able to make early on in the job market, you were working. It wasn't like you were waiting for opportunity. You were ready to get things going, and eventually you parted ways with the corporate world and started your own thing. What, outside of grit and confidence, what were the core values that kept you as a guiding systems to help you navigate from one opportunity to the next opportunity? Because it's not like you're just flatlining. You're getting in situations where, wow, I can actually go to that next higher level here.
Yeah, when I was in the corporate world, it was really interesting because I saw every goal, every MBO as the baseline. That wasn't what I was to achieve. That was just the base that I had to get to. So I was set higher than that. And I knew, again, that for a long time, I think I had a chip on my shoulder. I no longer have it there, but I think that achievement based upon, well, people don't think that I can do this. And now it's about, I know I can do this. I built that confidence within me. So how do I help both myself and others get to that next level? And it really evolved from there. So it evolved from, I have this chip on my shoulder, I have something to prove, to, I know I can do it. Now let me let me do it even better and do it not just for myself, selfishly, but for all of those around me, and really work in that mindset. And when I went out into the entrepreneurial world, I mean, it was frightening. And for anyone who tells you that it's not, I think they're being a little false with themselves and everyone else. Because I left a really good salary and a career arc. I was told somebody the other day, I was over goal, I think 29 out of 30 years that I was in sales, and I made some sort of club or sales achiever award like 19 different times. I could have continued down that path easily and stayed that course. But when I left my last role in 2024, and I took a little bit of time off, I joke that I took my delayed maternity leave, because I was part of the generation that when I gave birth to my son, I got 2 weeks off. I don't recommend that, by the way, to anyone. So when I took that 3 months and really just sat back and said, what can I do? It went back to that core of, where can I make a difference? So initially, I started out looking at how I could help people's business grow just from a sales perspective. And as I sat back, I realized that sales weren't the problem. It was aligning people into the right roles with the right processes, and that alignment is where people would really begin to grow both their revenues and their organizations and their cultures. And so that's really how I pivoted, and where Vetta Insights changes the game. Because in those 3 decades of sales that I worked, what I realized is that we continuously put the wrong people in the wrong roles, predicated on what their resume said or what education they had. I already told you that I have an accounting degree. People would have hired me out of college because I graduated with honors. I was a good student. I went to a good school, right? And they would have been wrong, because that was not the right position to put me in. Sales was never on my radar, but it was absolutely aligned to who I am at my core. And it gave me that, it propelled me into the career that I have now. And so looking at it, yes, grit's a part of it. And that's, we joke that it's not always pretty, but it's always gritty. You can't develop that in someone. You also can't make someone coachable. And I was both of those things. But again, I was interested in how I could change my path with more knowledge. And I think that's where a lot of people get short-sighted. They think that they do just what they're told to do, they learn just enough, and then they stop. And that's the limitation. And that's true in every aspect of life. That's true if you're an academic. That's true if you're in business. That's true in your personal relationships. That's true as a parent. We should always be looking to how can we continuously grow and educate ourselves so that we can evolve in our lives in every aspect.
And to follow up on that, would you say it's fair to think that grow specifically in what your skill sets are and what you naturally are good at? Because there's a lot of stuff on people's feeds that's grabbing for their eyeballs, saying, oh, you should grow in this, you should grow in that. And before you know it, everyone's trying to grow in everything. So would you say that we should align with our gifts, our talents, and what we actually do naturally at best?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things I leverage in the work that I do now, I leverage these psychometric assessments because, again, we look at, there's two different things. There's personality tests, and then there's really data. Personality tests are going to tell you what you see. It's the mirror, how you see yourself, right? But the psychometric data is truly a look inside how you're wired. And that's true. If I took that assessment when I was 10 or 22 or 40, it would have been the same basic assessment of who I am today in my 50s. And understanding that and then developing those skills accordingly. So like I am really driven to lead and motivate other people. And so it took me a long time to go into sales leadership because I, A, didn't feel like I was qualified. I had that imposter syndrome, right? And B, I was making so much money that I was being told, oh, if you go into leadership, you'll diminish your career. Well, really, a lot of those people who told me not to do that, they just liked the production that I provided to them. And so understanding that that was something that I always should have been doing, looking back, it kind of makes me chuckle. The second part of it is I'm energized from being around people. And so I'm a natural networker. The joke is I will talk to anyone. I can stand in line at the grocery store and end up creating a conversation just because I enjoy that interaction. But it shouldn't just be on a surface level. I enjoy that interaction at a deeper level. And so that mentoring, that speaking, that motivational speaking, I'm actually speaking 4 times in the next 5 weeks at different events. And I get asked to do that often now. And for me, it's not ego driven. It's the ability to share a message that I don't think is out there enough. And that's why I enjoy being asked onto these podcasts, because it gives me a chance to tell a story that maybe other people aren't telling. I am 5'4" tall. I was a volleyball player. Everybody says, oh, you were a libero or you were a setter. Actually, I was a strong hitter because I've been 5'4" since the 6th grade. So people said, oh, you're going to be really tall. It took me a lot more work to be successful being that small on the front line. I had to create my vertical and practice, and I had to walk out there on the court with confidence. That's the type of mentality I've taken into every other aspect of my life, because I wasn't supposed to do what I have done. And it all, again, is around finding your best skills and growing those. No, everybody is not going to be great at everything. One of my clients is a leader, and they hate it. But that's what they thought they were supposed to do. But their leadership abilities or their desire to be a leader is so low that when they go out there, they allow their staff and such to really walk all over them, because they don't really want to lead the team. They want to be collaborative. They want to be a part of that group. But they're following what the world or what they thought they needed to do to be successful. So again, not everybody should be an entrepreneur. Not everybody should be a leader. We have to understand who we are at our core and develop those skills and maximize that in every aspect of our life.
Once again, listen to I Am Refocused Radio, watching us online, talking to our guest today, Amy Weber. Go to her website, is vettainsights.com. Again, that's vettainsights.com. Let's zoom in on that part of people recognizing the leadership skills that they could have, because leadership skills, I would think it as, like you referred to earlier, and as having a mentor, someone who can plant seeds in your life that you can nurture over time, and it becomes a part of you. But someone had to see it. And sometimes that's the person looking in the mirror. We can have anybody speak over our lives, but until we're the ones that look in the mirror and say, you know what, I can actually do this. I can go for this position, or I can go for this business, or I can. Thing is, land airplanes, that we have to make the decision and live with this. So how do you tap into that inner leadership? Because I feel when you're called to do something great, it's going to require more than what you already put in.
100% true, and I agree with you. It is that combination of, you have to have that belief in yourself and you have to see that future. I think that too many times we get stuck thinking about what happened in the past, and we don't live there anymore. And we have to determine, where do we want to go into the future and how do we best get there? And part of that is about that belief in yourself and where you can drive that momentum and where that momentum comes from. And by the way, it can't be about, is this going to make me more money? Because what I can also tell you is that money's not going to be the root of how you develop your happiness or how you develop your drive. It's got to be more than that. And the second part of it is, again, I do believe that it's the people you surround yourself with. It's that, and it's not one of my favorite statements that I make is, I'd rather have 4 quarters than 100 pennies. It's the quality of the people, not the quantity, because both of those things add up to $1. But I'd rather have 4 quality individuals who are lifting me up and supporting me and challenging me, because that's the other aspect of it. Not having sycophants who are just going to say, oh, everything you do is great, but having people who will challenge your belief and challenge your philosophy, not out of spite, but out of just the ability to help you grow and develop. And versus having 100 people around you that are just hanging on or just false in that regard. And I think that today that's a huge issue for us, because in the world of social media, it's about the number of likes and the number of friends or the number of connections, the number of followers. And yes, in some ways those things are important, but you have to understand that that is surface level, not depth. And that the depth of your own beliefs and your own convictions, as well as those true people, those 4 quarters, that's where you see real growth.
That's the difference between having a coach and having a fan. Because when you are online, sometimes online is overrated. I'd rather just be low key and not be online, to be honest. But online is just fans. That's it. It's like how many followers you have, how many views. I mean, it's funny. We want numbers. We're a number-driven society. How many videos, views do you have? How many subscribers do you have? How many downloads do you have? It's never like checking the skill sets. Like, are you qualified? What have you done? What have you proven over time? What projects have you worked on lately? It's never those questions for the most part. But when you look from a higher level, it is those small details that matter, because we also live with technology and AI where people can assume to seem to be this and that, and it's almost too polished. And now we have a great divide where people are like, well, we want more of a humanistic approach now. We want more humanist in our approach. But there's other good arguments that, well, AI is the future. It's like we went from VHS tapes to DVDs to Netflix on demand. So it's a constant, we can't really rely on everybody's opinion, but we have to execute with our own belief.
I agree. I think that AI is, if you're not embracing it in the way in which you're working, that you're going to be left behind, but it doesn't. And it is going to replace certain tasks through automation, but that relationship is never going to be able to be replaced. That human touch, that thoughtful interaction, that's that pre-prepared, perfect presentation. I just wrote I write all the time now on that website. That I have a blog where I just kind of put my musings out, because when you work in corporate America, you really are discouraged from putting out a lot of that content on your own. And so now that I work for myself, I'm able to just put my musings out there. But a lot of that gets posted in various locations. But I just wrote something on my personal social media about how much I hate social media. That what I used to do, I look back at some of those posts come up as your memories, and I cringe, because it wasn't me. It was being done for so many different reasons. It was being done for validation and for friends and likes, and again,
competition.
Yeah, it was a competition. It wasn't who I really was. And now when I post, yes, I use social media frequently for my work, but it's authentic. And I think that's what you're talking about. And that's the difference. That's that human approach. My greatest compliment I can get are when clients that I've had in the past either still remember me fondly or still want to work with me in some capacity. Right, that they want to re-engage with me. I had clients that I worked with when I was a reseller rep as a young 20-some that bought from me when I worked for McAfee, that then bought from me when I worked for Cisco, that they continued through my journey because they wanted to engage with Amy Weber, not with whatever product I was pitching. And that is a huge compliment to me. Or that they remember me fondly and will come back and say, I had somebody give me a huge compliment the other day that said I provided them, I could write a masterclass on how to build relationships in corporate America. That is more valuable to me than any paycheck I've ever had because it meant I made a difference. And that's how we move forward. That's really the goal. Trust me, I've been time when it comes to making money. I know what it's like not to have any, and I know what it's like to have it. So yes, life's a lot easier when you have money versus when you don't, but that can't be your ultimate driver, or it's too superficial. There has to be more behind the message.
And with that said, you've been listening to Refocused Radio and watching us online. I can't believe we're flat out of time. We've been talking to our guest, Amy Weber. Go to her website. It's VettaInsights.com. That's VettaInsights.com. Real quick, if someone wants to learn everything that you have in your resources and stay connected with you, what's the best way that they can keep in touch with all that you're doing?
Yeah, so either through my LinkedIn page or through that website, Vetta Insights. I cross-post everything I do on my blog there. And on LinkedIn, I list all of my speaking engagements, as well as you can connect with me on both avenues for a free consultation if you want to engage with me to see if there's a way I can make a difference either with you personally or in your corporate life.
Well, like I always want to say to you, Amy, thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.